After the release of the series of programs, Trump, KGB Agent, in which I analyzed the top-secret operation of the KGB of the USSR to recruit and use Donald Trump in its active events, the FSB of Russia launched an operation to cover up its agent. The media and social networks on the internet began to circulate a false story that Donald Trump was allegedly recruited by employees of the 6th Directorate of the KGB of the USSR during his first visit to the USSR in July 1987. After a detailed conversation with one of the former deputy heads of the 6th Directorate of the KGB of the USSR, I would like to dispel this myth. This information special operation was prepared in the depths of the FSB as an active countermeasure in order to initially undermine confidence in the serious, reasoned information prepared and voiced by me. We are now trying to convey it to the governments of democratic countries throughout the civilized world, as well as to the leadership of their special services and the media. The starting point of the information cover operation was a post on the Facebook page of a former high-ranking employee of the security service of Kazakhstan, Alna Altshapovich Musayev. This message was later specifically supported by one of the heads of the Ukrainian special services during the rule of Yanukovych, and, unfortunately, was picked up, among others, by a number of Western media. I know that the FSB leadership used certain administrative resources and made certain financial injections to counter my information. This active opposition once again confirms the veracity of my information regarding the time and circumstances of Trump's recruitment. Now let's move directly to the original source that launched disinformation on social networks. Alna Altshapovich Musayev never had any relation to the 6th Directorate of the KGB of the USSR. His entire service in the KGB of the USSR took place on the territory of Soviet Kazakhstan. True, in 1986–89 he was on a long business trip to Moscow, but he worked in the central office of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, not the KGB of the USSR. In the 8th Directorate of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, which was engaged in technical encryption and decryption work, and also controlled the installation and wiretapping. But exclusively citizens of the USSR and only on the territory of the USSR. The service in which Musayev worked had no relation to foreign citizens and could not have. Simply because all foreigners immediately fell under the control of the KGB of the USSR, and the information was kept in the strictest confidence, especially from the services of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, with which the Chekists always competed. It is enough to recall the deadly confrontation between the chairman of the KGB of the USSR Andropov and the Minister of Internal Affairs Shelikov. The 6th Directorate never dealt with the issues that Mr. Musayev fantasized about. And this Directorate of the KGB of the USSR itself was originally intended to provide counterintelligence activities in the field of economy and industry. To protect enterprises of the USSR and the countries of the socialist camp from external interference from a potential enemy. It was created on October 25, 1982 on the basis of Directorate P of the 2nd Main Directorate of the KGB of the USSR. Structurally, it had 10 departments in areas of industry, including defense, agriculture, fuel and energy complex, capital construction, and others. But this directorate was not intended for surveillance, nor, even more so, for recruiting foreigners. For these purposes, the KGB of the USSR had other directorates with narrowly focused activities. I believe that this information is initially very well known to any head of Western intelligence services. As well as the very specific background of Musayev, who in 2015 was accused of kidnapping and murdering 2 top managers of the Kazakh Nurbank. Earlier, in 2008, Alna Musayev was convicted in absentia in Kazakhstan on charges of committing a number of serious criminal offenses. This is probably enough to understand how specific the reputation of the original source is. Thus, Musayev and all those who disseminate his disinformation are performing a custom-made clown show. But the main thing is that they create white noise and undermine trust in real, reasoned and analytically developed information. The leadership of the FSB and SVR, with the help of people like Musayev, is trying to divert attention from their agent Donald Trump. Disinformers, like clockwork, repeat the magic date of 1987 and thereby divert attention from his main crimes in the area of legalization of funds obtained from the production and sale of drugs, from arms and human trafficking, from prostitution, gambling and everything that the USSR Special Services and their ideological allies were engaged in on the territory of the Western Hemisphere. And the cherry on the cake. I would like to explain where the pseudonym Krasnov that Musayev attached to Trump came from. 3 people have been listed as heads of the 6th Directorate of the KGB of the USSR since its formation in 1982. In turn, from 1982 to 1989, the Directorate was headed by Lieutenant General Fyodor Alexandrovich Shcherbak. From 1989 to the end of 1991, Lieutenant General Nikolai Andreevich Savinkov. And at the end of 1991, the 6th Directorate was headed by Krasnov. With this poorly prepared information leak, the SVR and the FSB of Russia, in my opinion, even did a favor to the special services of Western countries. Now, by paying attention to those who disseminated this disinformation, it is possible to identify and eliminate the moles deeply entrenched in the West and engaged in subversive activities, waging an information war in the interests of the Kremlin. All public figures who repeat and spread this viral information with the mention of Krasnov must be neutralized and brought to justice in Western countries. Here are just a few names: Fagin, Jernov, Nevzorov. These persons have worked to give disinformation an informational status, facilitating its active promotion in the information field. End of communication.